Hi, Rick Bronick here from Power Tools for Men with my very dear friend, co-author and co-webinar producer, Leonard Shimchak. Leonard, what are we talking about here today?
Well, Rick, we've been talking a lot about kingship and encouraging men to be the king of their lives.
Hmm.
And I thought that it would be really helpful if we could share more of the stories about men entering into kingship. I know you have a beautiful story that you can share. So why don't you start with your story, then I'll share one of mine.
Okay, Leonard, I remember about 30 years ago, I was just starting to step into my kingship and I was on a men's training and I was asked to build the sweat fire for the staff to purify before the training started. So I was in the pit building a fire the way that I was taught to build a fire, and up pulled a car load of men from another city that were coming in. And one of the guys jumped out of the car. He didn't even say, "Hi, Rick, how are you?" or give me a hug. He walked into the fire pit, kicked what I was doing out, and began to rebuild the fire in the way that he thought. Well, I went to immediate rage, and rather than taking it out of him, I walked off into the woods for a while, and I started breathing and processing what was going on, and I realized that my old pattern was to walk away, screw it, give up my kingship, abdicate, walk away. But I'm not going to do that this time. So I gathered myself, I went back to the man who was in the fire pit, and I asked him for a moment of his time. He said, "Sure," and we were talking, and I said, "Who was responsible for building this fire?" And he said, yeah, you were." And I said, "And did I ask you for help?" And he went, no." And I said, "Then please get out of my fire pit and leave me to my job." And he started instantly crying and he put his head on my shoulder and he was just sobbing and we were holding each other. And I said, "What's going on?" He said, "My father's coming through this training as an initiate," he said, "and I want everything to be perfect. And I realized I just took it out on you. Thank you so much for calling me on that." I could feel my kingship come alive in that moment like it never had before. And I realized how much I'd given my power away. Felt pretty good. And that man is a dear friend to this day. How about
Wow,
you?
that's a very touching story, Rick. Just to know that kingship, when we are act like kings and lords of our life, that somehow transformation occurs not only within ourselves but with those around us. So it's a beautiful story.
Yeah, and I didn't have to hurt him to do that. In fact, it was helpful to him.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, that kind of reminds me, the thought that goes to my mind of a client I once worked with many years ago, and he was a multimillionaire, established businesses around the world, but he came in depressed. And when I explored with him, the reason why he was so depressed and anxious was that he had spent his life building these businesses, but he neglected his relationships at home. And so he's divorced, and his adult children refused to have anything to do with him.
Wow.
And so at one time, he probably thought he was the king of his life, but then later on, he realized he wasn't the king because he had no relationship with his children. And
Mm.
he said, if I had to do it all over again, I would give up all my wealth just to have a relationship with my kids. And it made me think, as a king, being the king of our lives, it's like we're harnessing our energy, but it means that we're connected to everyone within our realm. And I think that's also a very important part of being the king of our lives, to be a king in relationship with other people so that, if we're a partner with a woman, we have a queen, we have princes and princesses, if we have children, so that we can really establish a bigger realm of influence in our life.
Yeah, we could be partnered with another man and have two kings in the household too. Yeah, so if these stories speak to you at all and you want more information about the work that Leonard and I do, please go to our website, www.powertoolsformen.org. We'll put that link at the end of this video as well. We welcome you aboard.
Welcome aboard and on your journey to become the king of your life.